Hola.
Bonjour.
Ni hao.
Moi.
Guten Tag.
Privet.
Whichever way, guys, you want to say it, welcome to a very, very, very special bonus episode of the Normal Not Normal podcast with me, Oliver Phelps.
And me, James Phelps. And yes, we are still on our break, our summer holidays, as it were, right now. But we've got the chance to talk to one of our very favourite people.
Slam dunk, are you ready to make me?
So, as James said, we thought we'd take a break from our break.
Yeah, that's right.
Confusing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, before we start, I must let you know that this episode does have some language that some listeners may find offensive, or they may just not want their kids who are listening in the background to learn some new words. So the main reason for that is that when we were going through the edit of the show, we didn't want to censor everything because it would sound like an episode of The Osbournes. So we thought we'd just leave that in. So hopefully you can understand that one. But we thought
it's the first episode we've done that, isn't it? Anyway.
It is, yes, it is.
But for good reason. So today's guests, the first one is a multi-award-winning singer-songwriter. He broke all the records for people coming to see his last tour. It is Ed Sheeran and his brilliant manager, Stuart Camp. Now, there's a very special reason that we asked Ed and his manager, Stuart, to join us on this episode, and you'll find that out later on.
You will indeed. But James, very, very quickly, because I know everyone wants to get to our chat with Ed and Stuart. But James, very, very quickly, what have you been up to so far?
Yeah, it's been going really well. So I think when I last signed off the last season, I was just about to do a paddleboard challenge, 30 miles down a canal in England for the Movember charity. And it went really well. I had such a great time doing it. I actually grew a moustache for it, which looked very spiffing, if I don't mind saying so myself. As soon as I got home, the wife made me get rid of it. But it was a lot of fun doing that. And apart from that, I've just been having a great time at home, chilling with my dog. And do you know what? I've really enjoyed seeing everybody with their Normal Not Normal merchandise. Thank you very much for making that fly off the shelves. It's been going really well. So thank you very much for everyone who supported the podcast. What have you been up to, Oliver?
Well, what I have been doing is being able to do a bit of charity work, actually, which has been very, very fun with the Duke of Edinburgh Awards, with also the Aston Villa Foundation. So this weekend, when this episode goes out, I'm actually abseiling from the roof of the stadium, which should be very good fun to do that. As well as also I played golf with a chap at Ramesh the other week who was playing, get this, 20 rounds of golf in 5 days. So 4 rounds of golf a day. Ooh. And it was hard work. Like he was saying, he was the equivalent of walking 25 miles a day, 18 stories, and obviously you got the mental side of it as well to playing golf for that long. But amazing work that he was doing, raising a lot of money for a lot of great causes, including a charity that you and I are an ambassador for, Help Harry Help Others. So it was really great to be able to go along and show some support for that. And also, can I just say, very excited to see that Sainsbury's in the UK are stocking the Wizards chocolate, which they've actually just put on their online store as well. But that was very exciting. Anyway, as we say, Ed has had a bit of a rest the last couple of years since his daughter Lyra was born, and now he's back with a new single and tour. And we are honoured to be the first podcast recording since his return to work.
Yeah, and he was actually saying to us it's this first English interview in a long, long time. So that was a lot of fun to hear as well. Now, I remember seeing Ed in a gig in Birmingham a few years ago now, and I'd never seen him before. I liked his stuff on the radio, and so I went to see him in concert, and I was just blown away by what a great stage show it is. And 8 million people saw his last tour, his Divide tour, so I know many people will know what I'm on about. But I was expecting to see a band, but there's no band. It's just Ed on his own, making all the music himself. It's absolutely fantastic. If you ever get the chance to see him, I thoroughly, thoroughly recommend it. It is an amazing show. And what's great, you know when you think someone's going to be really nice and really cool, and they are. That's what I loved about this chat with Ed, so I really hope you guys get to enjoy it too.
I bet you weren't expecting to see us right now, were you? Well, anyway, welcome to a very special episode of the Normal Not Normal podcast with a very special sponsor.
That's right. HelloFresh is offering Normal Not Normal listeners and viewers up to 14 free meals plus free shipping.
That's right. You've probably heard of HelloFresh. They deliver fresh, pre-measured ingredients and seasonal recipes right to your door, like so. So, right. Let me paint you a picture, as you will, of how my evening went last night. I got a knock on the door. Okay, well, I went to the sound effects anyway. I got a knock on the door, and this great box arrived, my HelloFresh ingredients. Contact-free delivery. Anyway, what you do, you unpack your recipes, what you've already selected. You then choose a bag. So this is my bag here with my ingredients in, like that, if you can see all that. Then, get the instructions. So this is what I cooked last night. There we go. My duck tacos with plum sauce. Follow the very, very, very simple instructions on there. About half an hour, 40 minutes later, ta-da! I know this is only a little bit left of the food that I galvanised last night. It was absolutely fantastic. So that's pretty much how it goes.
That's right, because, like Oliver was saying, we've been using HelloFresh for quite a while now, and we absolutely love it. So, as Oliver can prove, you can pretend that you are an amazing cook. Just like the other night, my wife actually thought that I could naturally produce a sticky pistachio-crusted salmon, but in fact, I just followed the instructions right here. Don't tell her, but it was amazing, and I know that she liked it. So you can be an amazing cook too.
You can be, exactly. So just remember that feeding the whole family has never been easier, because they even do larger box sizes with more savings and more servings. Do you like that? Servings. Anyway, whatever it is.
Well, I was going to say that eating healthier has never been easier with low-calorie, carb-smart, vegetarian, pescatarian options every week. And no matter what you choose, every single recipe is packed with fresh produce sourced directly from the farmers themselves.
And I've got a little did you know for you as well, James. Now, you normally do the did you knows, but did you know that HelloFresh have already donated over 4 million meals to charity in 2020, and they're stepping up their food donations in local communities amid the food insecurity caused by the local pandemics.
Yep, and I've got another did you know fact. So, did you know HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit? They must be doing something right. Well, I know they are, because it tastes amazing.
Anyway, guys, go to hellofresh.com/normal14. That's hellofresh.com/normal14. Use the code normal14 for up to 14 free meals plus free shipping.
Now, with all that being said, on with the show!
Ladies and gentlemen, here's Ed Sheeran and Stuart Camp.
So, Ollie and James, how long have you done this podcast for?
So we've been doing it for it actually kind of started back in first lockdown last year, as it kind of just a way of what should we do really. It's like an output, and then it gradually just started to gain a bit of steam. And
the true story was we had a message from Johanna Conto, who's a mate of ours. She was saying she was doing a podcast, could she interview us? To which Oliver then said, oh yeah, could you come on ours? And she said, oh, have you got one? I was like, well, yeah, we do now. So it just kind of ran from there, and we just had a fun time interview. The first one was essentially just speak to people that we knew and asking questions which we would never ask because we're mates, so you never talk about work or career or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, we found that really interesting, and then it just kind of progressed into what we've done now.
Well, mate, I'm so excited to be on it. I actually, I was saying earlier before we started recording, I haven't really done that many podcasts ever. Podcasts are kind of like a new thing, and I haven't really done interviews for a long time, and it feels like they've come through in the time that I wasn't doing interviews. Like they're now there's so many massive podcasts now.
Yeah. So I mean, we kind of with this last season we were kind of like celebrating in a way, I suppose you could say, in what normal is, or is there even such a thing as a normal? Because like I'm sure that like your normality and my normality are different, but it doesn't make one above the other or anything like that. So we're trying to work out, does normal even exist? And that's what's been really great about speaking with different people from different walks of life and everything, and just seeing what that entails for them. But we've got to get to the first pressing question, and the reason why we were so happy to ask you guys to come on here. What do Fred and George Weasley have to do with a management contract?
You should start that one.
Stu, do you want to explain?
I think your version of events should come from you first, and then a dose of reality and a bit of...
Okay. So I am a lifetime huge Harry Potter fan, and you know, it was the generation that I grew up in. I think I actually remember my brother getting the Philosopher's Stone when it came out. It won some prize, but it was the one with Dumbledore on the back when he hasn't got the white beard, when he's young. I remember that very clearly, and not wanting to read it. Because like I was like 6 at the time, and books just didn't interest me. My brother got so obsessed with it that I got jealous of him and then read it and then just got it's sort of drawn into this world. And I mean, you know yourself, we're kind of a similar age. Like every year the books would come out, you'd queue up and kind of do that. So I'm a massive Harry Potter fan. I love the films. Stuart is not my generation and just does not understand. And I would watch the films all the time. We'd go on like long haul flights, international promo. I've just literally been to Los Angeles now for international promo and watched the 2 Deathly Hallows on that flight. It's kind of like a comfort film for me, like all of the Harry Potter films. And Stuart would always just kind of like put the films down and just say they're a bunch of shit. So when we came to signing our management contract again, the last management contract I put in there that if he didn't sit next to me on every single flight and look happy about it, the contract was null and void. So in this next one, I was thinking of different ones to put in, and I was like, because he didn't like the Harry Potter films, I was like, you have to have a picture of Fred and George Weasley in your wallet at all times, and when you do a photo shoot for a magazine, you have to hold it up.
There's my wallet. There's the picture. There is. Going back in. Ed made this for me. I think there's several of them in my office.
I think it's just a generational thing. I mean, Stuart's like. I mean,
I was
like
Star Wars and Lord of the Rings.
Blade
I think
Runner,
that's my first experience with Harry Potter. I went to a midnight screening of the very first film with an old girlfriend's brother who was a massive fan, and it was just lots of men older than me dressed up as wizards, and I must have been 30 then. And I'm not against that, but it was I just found it a bit peculiar. And I think you just went off at a different tangent on Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, and I just went down that road because I'd read those books when I was a lot younger. And I just never...
Yeah, but it would have been the same... It would have been... Like, Lord of the Rings was probably as important to you as Harry Potter.
Oh, completely. I mean, there's smaller books, or fewer books, but it was certainly that sort of thing at that age that you imprint on, really. And that's the way it goes. And I remember that's one of the first times me and Edward almost fell out when he told me that he preferred Harry Potter to Lord of the Rings. I thought, you're mad.
Hey. Don't... I'm going to... I did the music for The Hobbit, so I'm going to get lots of Tolkien fans being like, how big? Okay,
you were public with that.
They're two different things.
100% they're two different things.
For me, Harry Potter was, for a long time, the first and only book that I'd read. Like, I didn't read any, apart from those in the Phillip Pullman books, I didn't really read any books until my honeymoon. And then I remember sort of being like, books can be relaxing and you can... sort of like chill out and read a book. But yeah, so tell me guys, how did you find out about the management contract?
I remember it was posted somewhere, wasn't it? Someone did an interview with the video and you commented on it. Or one of you did.
Yes, yeah. So we saw a video and it was almost like in a
the print. Did you search for printer or something?
No, it's not a printer. This is a shame that we're not, because obviously COVID, we're not actually in my proper office. But Edward... My office, and it was Edward's old house, and at the moment he went in and they built this thing, and it's not a printer. You press a button and like a 30-20 of you two just rises, but so painfully slowly, like literally like this, from behind my desk.
Basically, we like I would say half of my career is done to annoy Stuart.
Yeah.
Like that is like my whole existence. Half of it's very, very serious and
it has to be relief.
Music focused, and then like the other half is just to piss off Stuart. Basically.
No, I love that, obviously because we were involved in it, but just that kind of thing anyway. Because on the last two, the Deathly Hallows 1 and 2, it was all one contract, and my agent at the time was saying, "Would you want any little T's and C's put in?" I said, "Like what?" I said, well, some people might ask like their chair be on set when they're at the studio. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not. But how about, so in my actual Harry Potter contract, I must have a stash of Bovril in my trailer.
Nice.
Which, for some reason now has always stuck. So then going down that one, is there anything else in your, like, what else have you put into the contracts? Like, is there...
We've had
something to do with
Ed had a touring.
Birthday.
We have a thing called a rider, which is like when you play a show, it's what the promoter has to put in your dressing room. And for many years, wasn't it a can of tuna and cucumber sandwiches and a can of Stella for my manager? Wasn't it that, Edward? I can't remember.
Yeah,
but that still sticks. Our tour manager still puts that in, whatever happens now.
and a pack of flaming hot Monster Munch. And like for years, I mean, I remember doing like the O2 and that being my rider. It was just like tuna cucumber and flaming hot Monster Munch. And I think the combo can't be beaten. The thing is, riders. People, so do you know the kind of age-old rumor of like Madonna or just wanting pink or blue M&Ms?
Yeah.
Do you know that? So the reason that that's in the rider is not because she wants blue M&Ms. It's to make sure that they know that the rider has been taken care of. So they put a really random request in there. So when they walk in the dressing room and see just blue M&Ms, they go, if they're this on it, everything else will be sorted. Whereas like you could walk into a dressing room and be like, I don't know what could be there. So I think I think riders can be quite ridiculous. There was a time where I was putting a DVD, I put on my rider, I said pick your favorite film and then get me that on DVD, but I ended up getting like 5 Notebook DVDs, and I was like, okay, we should probably like give this a rest now. But yeah, I can't think of anything else weird. I mean, we do a lot of weird things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot, but a lot of it's not contractual, not really. I mean, we had to fight for a long time to get the thing with the wallet non-contractual, because I had some previous partners.
I mean, the last weird thing I can think of is I had my 28th birthday at a Pizza Hut because I wanted to recreate, you know, like those little Pizza Hut birthdays you had when you were like 6 or 7 with the ice cream machines. We were in like Belo Horizonte or like, where was it?
Oh,
it was in Brazil. Somewhere.
It's in Brazil. I remember that. That's about it.
It was in Brazil, and I had no idea what I wanted to do for my birthday, and I was just like, let's rent out at Pizza Hut, and we did it. It was fucking great. It's really great.
I mean, that comes in as well, because I have the Colin the Caterpillar cake comes into that as well.
Oh shit! Yeah, so that is something. Stuart has to supply me a Colin the Caterpillar cake on my birthday wherever we are.
Wherever we are, and I did manage this, even though I wasn't with you. But when we did that party in Brazil, bless them, they had all these chefs in. They're like, "We'll make you the most amazing birthday." They'd never heard of Colin the Caterpillar, so it was me trying to Google it, going, "Just do that." And they were just like so disappointed. They're like, "But no, we want to make you an amazing birthday." I was like, "No, please, just do the crap caterpillar." You know, my career depends on it. But but that's always the one that I sort of remember the day before, and you'll just go, "Where is he?" And he was like, "How can I get a caterpillar cake?" I think this year my wife made him one, which was a good result. But we'll see.
It was good. It was more. I think it was more Sid the Slug than Colin the Caterpillar, but it was still great.
She improvised a bit too much, perhaps.
I was going to say you need to be careful, don't you, at the moment with the names you call them at the moment.
Yeah. Exactly. Was it Aldi? I didn't really read that there was a bit of a Barney, wasn't there? About was it Marks and Spencer's own Colin Caterpillar, and it's like. But I thought that was the whole point of Aldi, that it had like slightly comedic, different versions.
Yeah, it wasn't Cedric the Caterpillar or something.
And they have all sorts of other things.
I
like
saw they
Kitty
did
Cat.
chicken nuggets, but it literally just had on, yes, exactly like those ones that you think they look like.
Yeah, and it was exactly the same, wasn't it? I saw that.
I love these like supermarket wars where they kind of get really, really involved. Yeah. I didn't realise that. Am I right in saying Aldi and Lidl are brothers?
No. This is such a geeky podcast now. I think it's Aldi. It's one or the other. They were both the same family, and that the dad owned all of them. And then when he died, he left half and half. So one took one side of Germany, I guess, and then the other took it everywhere else.
Because I think Puma and Adidas are actually brothers.
Yeah. They were the Dassler brothers. They basically.
How did you just know that?
So I read up on it. I remember thinking, it's amazing how from a small little town, you've got like two of
Well, it's the same as.
So it's one of the big chocolate companies as well. Is it Cadbury and someone else? One of them split, and there's I can't remember what one it is, but there's definitely the same scenario with the chocolate.
Also, like speaking of small, well, not small little towns, because I think Virginia is quite a big place, but Timberland and Pharrell and I think Missy Elliott were all in the same class, which is insane.
Really?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Wow, that is insane.
Or maybe Timberland was a little bit older, but they definitely went to the same school. But yeah, crazy.
Good school.
No, really impressive, really impressive. But okay, so let's take a step back then. So obviously, like you guys' working relationship, you could say, seems very relaxed and very jovial with each other and stuff like that. Can you tell us how first of all you guys met, and then obviously going into working together as well?
I was with another manager from the age of just coming out of 15, 16, and that gave me the opportunity to sort of like move to London and start gigging around and writing songs and stuff. But I just don't think it kind of clicked. I think we were both, me and the other manager, both sort of young, and I didn't really know exactly what direction I was heading in. I don't think he knew exactly what direction he wanted me to head in. So we sort of parted ways amicably. And then I just sort of gigged around, and I started finding my thing, as it were. And then I got taken on tour with a guy called Just Jack. And Stuart was managing Just Jack at the time. And I remember being backstage at Leeds.
Yep.
And this girl was like, oh, I'm like really good mates with Paolo Nutini. And I was like, oh, I really like Paolo Nutini. And then she was like, oh, this is my husband, by the way. And then I just met Stu, who also happens to know Paolo Nutini. So I was instantly like, hello. And before he started managing me, I just moved in at their house. And I just kind of like...
We went to the pub one day and then he never left.
Yeah, literally, we went out, we had like maybe like 6 or 7 pints, and he was like, oh, if you want to crash at mine. And I sort of took that as a forever. But yeah, and then... yeah, we didn't actually sign an official management contract.
No, the official contract was at least a good
3
6
years
months after that, I
after.
think. Not 3 years after that.
Was it
It
not?
wasn't that long. No.
I thought it was like
no,
midway
there was
through
a bit.
Plus.
No, it's before Plus came out, but that would have been a good year, over a year after we first met each other, wouldn't it? Yeah, I think there's various ongoing things with the company that I worked for being owned by different people, and it was all like a nod and a wink, but there wasn't any paperwork for quite a while. But yeah, Edward sort of moved in and never really left, and we moved house several times, and he still managed to find us.
Dude, they moved house and like bought this place that they were like, oh, we finally got away from Ed, and upstairs was for sale, so I bought that. But they like moved, and then I got the place opposite, and then they moved again.
It was
and I got the
opposite
place
first, wasn't it?
upstairs.
And then it was above.
And then they moved.
I think it was never more than 20 metres away for at least the first 6 years. It was always quite a wrench when you actually bought a house that wasn't even in the same street. Like,
Well, they moved too far outside of London, and I was like, oh, I don't want to live that far outside of London. But yeah, Stu, I think if you lived more central, I would definitely try and find somewhere near.
Well, that's a shame. I can't afford to live central, thank you very much. So Twickenham it'll be.
What?
But I'm near the airport. I don't understand why people don't want to stay too much. I just have a collection of scary dogs now, so people don't come round so often. So it's good.
So you ever off the clock then, Stu, if Ed lived so close?
Well, no, but that doesn't really make any difference anyway. I mean, yeah, it was always... I mean, also we see each other socially and we get on very well, but you're always on the clock anyway. Being a manager, it's a 24/7 job. There's no...
But like, I would go around there for... I mean, I stayed with Lib and Stu for the 2 weeks prior to my daughter being born, kind of thing. Like, and that was like totally nothing to do with work. It was just like Stu and Lib were like the godparents to my... Like, it's the... Yeah. It's not it's work, but it's not work. So sometimes...
But it's not work. And also, the only holidays I've had in pretty much my entire adult life have been with Ed. You know, as well as touring. It's like, let's go on a holiday. I'm like, okay. So we did.
I took him to...
so no, it's never off. I mean, that's just the life.
We went...
What'd you say?
I was just saying we went to Antarctica together.
Oh, Antarctica, yeah.
Gosh. So you guys then, I suppose, especially like obviously working together, living together for a bit, going on holiday to Antarctica and stuff like that, there must be some things what annoy you with the other person. I mean, I'm speaking of experience with my brother. Maybe that's a sibling thing, but we lived together for a bit and then realised it may not have been the most constructive constructive time to live with each other.
I can hold my hands up and safely say there is nothing about Stuart that annoys me, but there is a lot that annoys Stuart about me. A lot.
But now that you've said that, I'm having difficulty to think of it. There'll be things, but I can't think what it is. It's not even the annoying things. There's things that you learn, and I love Edward like a brother and a son at the same time, which is an interesting one. But there's things you learn about how to behave or how to get things done, and that's not an annoyance thing. You just like. If he's being stubborn about something, you just set little traps and make him think it's his own idea, and he does, and it's great. And there's things like that, which isn't an annoyance, but you just like little quirks that are like, well, you could just be normal. But then you just think, well, no, well, if I just do that, or if someone else says it, You'll just get. I'll know there's things that I'll want.
The annoying
to happen,
thing is,
and I know that it'll never happen. So I'll just ring up someone else, going, "Put this idea
on
in his
each
head," and it works.
on each album, like the last session has always brought out the like hit single, and Stuart's just been fucking nudging for months, just being like, but like really subtly. And what is annoying is I just did one more session, and this amazing song, which is the next single, has come from it. And when I wrote it, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, this is going to be me forever now. Every time I'm finishing an album, it's just going to be nudge, 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 nudge. It does work. It does work.
Is that now almost the thing where you know that there's no pressure? Obviously, you want every song to be the best it can possibly be, but now has it got to the stage where you think, I know the best one's not necessarily the best one, but you know what I mean, like the first single's going to come last?
I think you just relax more and try different things. So like my single, that I don't know when this podcast's coming out, but I think my single would have come out by then. But the song Bad Habits basically came from that, of just being like, oh, I'll try something different sonically because I know my album's done. So I'll just like try and push the boat out a little bit, and it usually works. I mean, it worked with Shape of You as well, because that was never, the album was sort of done, handed in, being mixed and everything, and then that song kind of came out of nowhere. But yeah,
that was really low.
So when you, sticking with that, when you're making new music and all that kind of stuff, so do you get nervous when like fans listen to it for the first time? Are you more, if you do get nervous at all, or is it more when you give it to people like Stuart or your family, who I guess these songs are written about, or they'll know the situations that contributed to it? Does that ever come into it with you?
I never used to really get nervous about releasing music. There's a sort of like quiet confidence of coming from like the age of 19 and having everything that I release kind of do well. So I never really got nervous about releasing. I was just excited to share the music, but I've been gone for so long now that I am super nervous about it. I mean, it's like I'm a completely different person to who I was when Divide came out, and I released a project in between Divide and now that I didn't like heavily promote, so I didn't really do interviews or gauge whether people actually like loved it, because I think when you've got an album out and you do interviews, you can kind of gauge what people think of your stuff. So yeah, I'm very, very nervous now, but I think that's a good thing. I think I'm excited to press the button that starts everything up again, and I'm really enjoying getting out and doing interviews.
What were both of you like as kids? Like, what was your normal Sundays?
Sundays. Well, I'm at that age where we went outside and just rode bikes.
Hey Stu, I was that.
Which I'm not sure kids.
We went outside as well.
Yeah, I've got a little nephew now, and he doesn't go out at all. He just sits there with a switch in front of his face like that. And but no, Sundays for me, that was definitely it was watching football and then just riding bikes with mates, and that was it. It wasn't even. It was only sort of later I got into all the geeky stuff, like, you know, computers and films and everything. That was much later teens. But as a young kid, I mean, I'd get up. I've never slept. I've always been one of those people who'll go to bed at like 9 o'clock and get up at midnight or whatever. I've always been, and I as a child, and it must have driven my mum insane. I'd get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and just go riding my bike over the fields for miles and miles and miles, and then I'd come back going, "What's all the fuss about?" And half the village is out looking for me. So I used to do that quite a lot. That was my little party trick. So no, it was quite an outgoing, sort of outdoorsy as a kid, which I'm now making up for as an adult, where I've really enjoyed lockdown and not leaving the house and looking at a computer all day.
And did you always think then, growing up, that you wanted to be in, like, not necessarily the music industry, but the entertainment space?
Oh no, definitely
Stu,
music.
tell him
100%.
what your first job was.
Tell him what. My first job technically was working in the chicken factory, which was really.
But it's such a like,
and then
such a different start to finish. That's what I really, really love about it.
Yeah, well, that was the summer job I grew up in Bury St Edmunds, actually not far from where Ed did, and it was just 15 years old, just having this Saturday job, and I swear to God, I went home, my stepmother cooked chicken for that night, and I was like, I can't eat chicken for at least 6 months after working in that place. Ironically, chicken's now the only meat I do eat. But then, so I always wanted to work in music. I went to university purely just to get in. I went to Leeds because I wanted to go, because I knew there was a good music scene, and that's how I got a job. I started hanging out with bands and I spent my formative 15, 20 years working at record labels before I switched to management. So it was,
which is
It
great.
was never going to be
because
anything
when
else for me.
I'm signed to the same record label that Stuart used to work for, so Stuart kind of knows when they're bullshitting and can just be like, well, no, because I know that you can do it like this.
That's why I was like, I made up most of the lies you're now telling me. So don't try it. It was the lie.
And for you as well, Ed, what was a normal Sunday for you?
Do you know what? Since being married, I've been introduced to the regular Sunday roast. We never had Sunday roast as a kid. We had tomato soup and hovis, and that was your son. So that was my Sunday tradition. And then I was outdoorsy, but I didn't really have a hell of a lot of friends until I got to high school. So I was more music. I would listen to music a lot. I'd sit and write. I had a CD. No, it was a tape fucking cassette player, and then it was a CD player. And I would just put on music and just obsessively learn it. And then when I picked up guitar, I'd obsessively learn that. So yeah, in the same sense of kids now being glued to video games. I was never allowed video games as a kid. So in the sense now that they're glued to video games, I was glued to CDs, tapes, and guitar, basically. Yeah, arguably
It's worked out all right for you.
Arguably, it's the way to do it.
It was a good primitive education.
I only mentioned earlier, Stuart, that you see Ed as a brother/son type thing. So
we are from Suffolk, so that is
Oh, so there may be a possibility.
You are from Suffolk, so he could well be.
You said that, not me.
No.
That's it. You still live there. I can never go back now.
When you guys started working together, would you say there was almost a guardianship sense, in your thought process?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ed was only just about to turn 18 when I first met him. And, the scruffy little lad with his backpack who was just sleeping wherever he could. And, and it was just, there was. And certainly, my wife really took him in, and that was it. She was in the bed feeding him. So it's definitely that duty of care, which you have to have as a manager anyway. But I think there was more of it because it became instantly personal. Usually if in this job, your relationship is definitely always professional first, but this one was personal first to a certain degree as well. So that's always why it's so.
And there's a kind of, I think,
really. So, 100%.
A protective element from it, because the music as you guys know, with the film industry, I mean, just any industry is pretty fucked at the end of the day if you're young, because it's in everything. It's a business, it's the film business, the music business, and business is cutthroat and can be very. Sort of damaging, I think. And I think there's so many people who have been in my position that have not had a kind of I've found it really challenging and tough at times, and I've got people like Stuart in my life, and my parents are really sound, and my wife's really sound. So I think it's important to have really solid people around you who are looking after your best interests. I've never ever felt that Stuart would ever rip me off, because I know what Stuart's hobbies are, and they're not going on super yachts. Stuart,
really, I'm very
honestly, if Stuart, you hear these stories of managers taking 100% of the artist's money and stuff like that. If Stuart's doing that, God knows where it is.
Don't know where he's going.
What he's spending it on. Stuart is just into video games, football, and dogs, and that's kind of it. And actually, speaking of annoying things that I sent him a 10-foot Boba Fett statue for his birthday, which is good, but he just didn't know where to put it, so he's just got this fucking massive statue.
It turned up on the
Stu,
hottest
I'm just
day
saying,
year.
your birthday is in 14 days.
Japan.
there's something that's coming.
There's something up. And it came in about 100 boxes. It was the biggest Airfix kit you've ever seen in your life. And luckily, I just rang my brother-in-law and said, "Bring your nephew round. I've got Boba Fett." And I just sat there
you
and
have
watched
got
them
another
make
one
it.
coming
So it was a
in 14
result
days,
in the
by
end.
the way.
There's nowhere to put it.
So, speaking about that, Ed, was anything that you found what was the main thing when you? Because I've heard you say before that you were told.
Oh, wait.
that-
Government.
Boris.
Government. Hello?
Is that your call?
Boris.
Let's be respectful.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and have a lovely day.
Thanks, man. You too. Sorry about that, guys. If you
Yeah, exactly.
Is anyone
wanna-
else holding their
Shout
breath, feeling
something
really
out,
naughty during
if
that
you
call?
want to
I don't know.
add,
It's like,
add
it was like being
5
caught by
minutes at
teacher,
the
wasn't it?
end,
It was just like,
let's do that. So sorry, what was your question?
I can't remember. I just had visions of, and you're all hiding at your mate's house, and their mum calls them and says, "Are you on your own?" It's like, yes. Yeah. What I was going to say is, talking about when you were coming in through the music industry. I know that a couple of people told you, look out for this, look out for that, and it was kind of like a checklist of what went on. Like, what was it like when people started recognizing you and really taking on your songs as theirs? How did that feel for the first time?
Well, I started getting recognised really early on because I am bright ginger hair and I play a tiny guitar, and my kind of image was very recognisable. So as soon as I started doing like YouTube videos, I mean pre SBTV, I was sort of getting noticed places just because of the way I looked. So that was happening from very early on. To be honest, at the beginning, I was just grateful that anyone was listening. So if someone came up and was like, "Oh, I saw you on this," or like even if not that people got annoying, but like being. I mean, you lads. Actually, you're not ginger, are you? You're ginger for the film.
We faked it. I always remember once there was a thing in the metro. What's that? Sorry.
was it wigs or did you have it dyed?
No, they were dyed. It's like every 3 weeks would be like dye the hair, bleach the eyebrows. But I always remember once they did a thing in the metro where they were talking about ginger people. Like there's like some article about it, but they used a picture of James and me on the picture. I was like, of all the people to use people who dye their hair that colour, But it was.
Yeah, you never went through what we went through.
No, I know. Yeah. Well, actually, when I tell a lie to it, we did rock up at school one day, and everyone was like, "Why is your hair colour that?" Like it literally went from like overnight. We turned into it, but it was. I don't know. It never really made any difference to us when we were going. I suppose because we were. But it did make you stand out in a crowd. I think that's definitely one thing.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, for me, I was just so grateful about. I mean, I remember actually having an argument with a fellow singer-songwriter who was quite successful, and it like still is. He still does his thing, but he was so against having teenage girls at his show. He was just like, "Oh, they just come and stand in the front row and they scream, and it's just fucking annoying." And I was like, But they like your music, man. Like they like. Is that not why we're doing this? Like, do we have like a list of people that are allowed to come to our gigs? And let me tell you something about cool people coming to your gigs. They're fucking boring. I was in the cool set for maybe like 3 months. Enemy liked me for about 3 months, and. I had like really like cool poser people come to the gigs. No one clapped, no one sung. They were all just too fucking cool for school. They didn't dance anything. As soon as I started getting any sort of fan base that was young, the gigs just got way better, and it was just exciting. So I think for me, when people started recognizing me, I was just so grateful that people liked my music. It was like I was so surprised that you could get paid to play music, because everyone had always said, get a real job, get a proper job. So when I started getting I mean, even if it was like a minimal amount, maybe it was like 20 quid a week or something, it was still like, wow, I'm getting paid to play music. So I think when people started recognizing me, I was just super thrilled that they were.
Yes, best for well. Was it that you'll say if you can do a job that you love, you never work a day in your life?
Yeah, until you start. What happened when I finished the Divide tour is I was sort of in my mind like, I should probably stop playing music for a bit because I've done it every day and it's blah blah blah. And then you stop doing the thing you love and you're like, well, what am I? Like, who am I? Like, if you don't play music, what is your sort of purpose? And I think becoming a father was a big. It sort of filled a massive gap that was there, because my job sort of my hobby turned into my job, and then sometimes you want to take days off your job, but then if you're taking days off, what do you do? Because you can't do your hobby. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
no, exactly. But I mean, talking about the Divide tour, I noticed that when you were playing, you'd always seem to be able to wear the local team's sports jersey when you were out of country. Was that two things? One, did you get to keep them all? And if so, have you got like a massive trunk somewhere full of like
No, I would
Soccer
take them
jerseys.
off straight after the gig, and they would go. There'd be like usually like a kid who'd been waiting there all day front row, and like we'd usually just I'd give it to my security guard and just be like, give it to so and so front row. I don't think I kept any one apart from the one from my final gig, the Ipswich Divide shirt. I don't think I kept any because they also cluster up a lot of space. Like you know.
I mean, the reason I ask is whenever we used to do a promo thing, I'd always get the local team's jersey. And in the end, my wife said, I'm not having any more of these in the house because they're just in a vacuum bag in the loft. And I went there the other week and they've gone somewhere. They've gone somewhere, but they're not there now. But I mean, the second question, though, like obviously to keeping with the sports thing, did that sow a seed for you to want to be the jersey sponsor for Ipswich Town?
No, for me, the thing that sowed the seed originally is my first football team that I played for, Framlingham Town FC, who are like the local team. They contacted Stuart and said, we've got a sponsor for all the teams apart from the under-11 girls. And it was the time, it wasn't, Lyra wasn't born yet. But anyway, they said, can you sponsor the under-11 girls? So I did. And then from there, I was like, I don't want to like step on anyone's toes here, but like the shirt sponsorship for Ipswich was a bit shit. It was a gambling thing. It was called Magical Vegas. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like they were
that thing about editing stuff
divide on their shirts. But speaking as an Ipswich fan, it didn't look great. It didn't look great.
I don't think any football fan wants a big gambling company on their shirt sponsor, do they?
Not at all. And like to be honest, Magical Vegas gave their last year of sponsorship to a charity, the Carers Trust, and it's all good. But anyway, at the time of the sponsorship conversations, the shirt looked a bit shit, and we had divides put on the shirt, and it, in my opinion, looked fucking awesome. And it was when I was just sponsoring the Framlingham Town Football Club, the girls under 11s. And I just said to Stuart, I was like, can you reach out to Rosie from Ipswich and see what their deal is and whether they need a new sponsor? And it turned out they did. We got the contract through. It was actually, it is quite mental, but it wasn't like out of the realms of possibility, and it felt good putting back into a club that I loved. And also, like, you get like quite funny stuff on the thing, like there's like, I think they gave like 100, they give you like 170 signed footballs for your company, and you can have like a company barbecue and game on the pitch and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's things we didn't take up on. There's a contract with like a menu, and Ed's like, don't want it, and it was like,
oh, but I can
have
be
the sponsor,
the
choose the sponsor. And it's like, we can have so
any
much
game
fun.
I want, so I can just go and dress up as it.
Yes,
which I would
You have to do it. Yeah, you have to do it.
Yeah, which I would do. But I think anyone.
You should do it.
Anyone
You should
who's, like,
definitely do it
Are
once.
you guys into football?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a massive Aston Villa fan.
No, sick.
Yeah, so they've been doing all right, so it's been good.
They have.
But I'm a Birmingham fan,
that's
so
good.
we're a
That's
bit
good,
different
yeah.
in that regard.
City.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've probably.
Yeah, from Sutton Coldfield, so just north of. So we live in the Villa part of town, but the only reason I support Birmingham is because essentially my dad lied to me when I was 5 and basically told me Liverpool's history, but replaced Liverpool with Birmingham. And then I think when I saw them lose to to Kidderminster 2-0, I realised that it wasn't exactly what he sold me with.
But this is what I love about UK sport. I've just been in America, and they've been asking me the shirt sponsorship the whole time, and they're like, "Are they in the Premier League?" And I'm like, "No, they're in League One. And it's not televised." But what I love about English sport is no matter how your team does, they're still your team.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like a team. Like I have loads of mates that are actually Birmingham City fans, and they're the same. Because are they playing at Coventry Stadium, or Coventry's playing at their
Coventry
stadium?
were last season. Coventry were playing at St Andrews.
Yeah. But no, I love that it's kind of like through hell or high water, they're your team. And the same for Villa. I mean, Villa aren't Man City, but they're still like, they go up, they go down, they're relegated, they're put up.
Yeah, which was the thing. Like when they got relegated a couple of years ago, it was they were kind of always circling the plug hole for a couple of years, and then eventually they went down. And then they lost the playoff final to go back in the Premier League, and they were pretty much looking like they were going to go into administration. And then, because they had some charlatan owning the club who turns out didn't have a plot against him, but he was doing that. And now he's on the run from the Chinese authorities because it turns out he hasn't done any favours over there. Anyway, that's a different matter.
A friend of mine who's a Birmingham City fan said that the owner's brother is a paid player for the team but doesn't play for the team or something.
Yeah, probably. They don't own the state. They sold the stadium, so the club don't actually own the stadium, but people who own the club own the stadium. And they've just sold it to another. It's so like, yeah, it's one of those.
Anyway.
Mate, yeah. English football is a joy. I love it. I love it so much.
Try to explain it.
I think that's the cool thing about it, though. Like, especially when you can almost bring your work life into it slightly. Like, so I've been able to, fortunately, be an ambassador for the Aston Villa Foundation. So they do a lot of stuff in the community, and I've managed to rope a business partner who's a bit scared of heights, but we're going to abseil off the Holt end, so the one stand behind the goal. He doesn't know it yet, but I've just said we're going on a tour of the ground, so that'll be fun. But he's going to get there. And it's like, yeah, it's for charity, mate. Come on, off you go. So but it's good to be able to keep that in with it. But I suppose with the obviously with your new album, what's coming out, Ed, and with the new single as well. Can you tell us anything about that? Like, is that going to be? Are you going to move that into, say, as you say, like the entrance music or something like that for Ipswich?
I honestly, I don't want my sort of musical career. I know the sponsorship is my tour, but I don't want to be. I don't want to like push my music on Ipswich fans and have to be that. But my song Castle on the Hill. Whenever I go there, they always play it as. So that's like a natural progression thing, because Castle on the Hill is about Suffolk and people. But yeah, I don't think I'd force anyone to do anything. I just like going to the games and having a pie, and yeah it's
hard to explain. If you're not English, it's hard to explain, isn't it,
dude? And also in COVID, how like watching Ipswich, there's this thing called iFollow. And it's for teams that aren't televised. Ollie, you would not know this. Stuart, you would also not know this. But James, you might know about iFollow. But like, paying a tenner every single week to tune into a stream and then just seeing them get battered, you're just like, oh, fuck's sake. But no, they've got new owners now, new sponsorship, and they've got some new players. Mate, Stu, do you know Tyrone Mings is in Ipswich?
Ipswich? Yeah, I didn't know that until yesterday when they mentioned it in
the
Indigo.
Wasn't he? He went on
yeah,
I
didn't know. I didn't realise.
Oh, who do you support, Stuart?
Stu's Spurs.
I'm Tottenham.
Okay.
Well, Spurs and a nod to Wolves as well, because my dad's a Wolves fan and he always took me to Wolves. I've still to this day probably been to more Wolves games than I have Spurs. Because he never used to take me to Tottenham. So I've got a box now.
Yeah, Stu's one real like baller purchase was he bought a box at Tottenham, and then we went on tour, and then the stadium wasn't finished, and then he came back and COVID hit. So he's been to like one game.
I've been to about 6 games. The rest of my family have been to about 100. They love it. And I was like, great. I'm glad you're all really happy. But it's not really worked out for me so far.
Well, we're two of the like tens of millions of people that have seen you perform, Ed, and every time.
Oh, what gig did you come to?
I came to not the Divide Tour, the one before that in Birmingham.
Oh wow,
it was unreal. Sick. Like I didn't know that you didn't play with a band, first of all, which I was blown away by how you just went about that, and like that. Anyway, if you haven't seen Ed, see him live because he's amazing. I'm not just saying this because you're here.
It's interesting you're saying that, because we're going through a thing of being like, do we get a band? Don't we get a band? And I think the resounding answer is keep it the way it was. I think.
Yeah, well, I guess it's because
well,
you just expect. I just assumed that you would be with a band, and when I thought the roadies were just doing a really lazy job and not bringing anything out, and then then you did. But obviously, that you've been able to tour pretty much every major stadium around the world, and Stu, I guess you've been to every one as well with Ed. What is there?
He always misses Australia for some like mad like he had
something always goes wrong. I had a detached retina in my eye last time, so I had to get emergency fly home from Australia. But apart from that, I'm at every show.
So I'm guessing it's a long way since. Was it the Dog and Duck you guys first met in that? Was it the Dog and Duck or something like that?
No, it was.
No, it was Leeds. It was the.
Oh, Leeds. Sorry, that's right. Yeah.
It was the O2 Academy.
Town and Country.
O2 Academy. Yeah.
So then, so on all the shows you've done, what would be one of the highlights for you? For both of you, from Ed you performing and Stuart you watching.
Two stick out in my mind. One was playing the Nashville Ryman, like headlining that in like 2013, I think January 2013, and it's like it's a famous American venue, but the people that go there are all it's the home of country music.
It's Nashville, isn't it?
It's Nashville, yeah. So the people that go there are all like country musicians, and their kids are country musicians. So the whole crowd sings in like 5-part harmony for the whole, and they're spot on. And when you go, like I did half the gig unplugged. It's like a 2,000 capacity theatre, and I just unplugged my guitar, stood at the front of the stage, and sung without any amplification, and you could hear a pin drop. So that for me was the first time I played somewhere where it was like they came to the show to come to the show, but they appreciated the musicality of it, and I really like that. But then also I think walking on stage at Wembley Stadium for the first time and seeing that, it's the home of, I'd say it's, the best stadium in the world in my opinion, but it's the home of English football. It's where like not many artists get to play. Mm-hmm. There's probably like 5 or 6 bands and artists now that could like put it on and sell it out. And I never ever assumed that I would be one of them. And walking out on stage and seeing however many people it was, 82,000 people. And because I didn't look at the crowd before the show, I was like, I need to just walk on stage and see it. And it was fucking mad. So like that, I think those two were two that stand out in my head. Stu, what's similar?
Yeah, I think that first Wembley for me, for sure, because that was... We'd played stadiums before at sort of multi-artist bills. We'd only ever played like 2 songs, and we'd never really done something like that, certainly not in England. So that was sort of the big test, whether we do that. And then probably Glastonbury as well, probably the same reason, because we didn't look at the crowd all day. At Glastonbury, when you're a headliner, they squirrel you away backstage and you can't really go out and be like, is anyone going to turn up? Because obviously it's they don't have to go. We're like, how big's the crowd going to be? It's a Sunday night. And I'd seen bands there before where half the festival goes home on a Sunday, and it was like, fuck. Walked out literally opening it. It's like biggest crowd they'd ever had on a Sunday. So that was probably the one special one for me as well. Just like, wow, great, we are actually going to do this. So that was the thing. More people than you could see. So yeah, so there's those two, and both for the very same reasons. The minute you walk through the curtains, you walk through the curtain and went, shit. So yeah, they're the two standouts. I wasn't actually at that Ryman one in Nashville.
Yeah, the Ryman one wasn't. The Ryman one wasn't like a flagship special gig. I just remember it very clearly, just being like.
No, but I remember others spoke about it. But
I guess that's kind of like the normal one, isn't it? When you go to, so you say like only a 2,000 seaters a venue, but it's like a church, isn't it? The Ryman, is that right?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I think so. I don't know too much about it, other than it was fucking awesome, and I like the show. I played it with Snow Patrol once before that, and it was great. So I sort of knew what I was going into. But man, there's some like amazing venues around the world. There was one actually in Long Island. What was it called, Stu? The Paramount Theatre in Long Island, and I'd done an interview there that day, and I was like, this theatre's really beautiful, can we play it tonight? And they were like, well, we haven't got any security, we haven't got anything on. I was like, I'll pay for the security to go on, and let me tweet out to my fans there's a free show at the Paramount. And then we had like 2,000 kids to turn up and fill this theatre, and it was so good because they didn't pay. I didn't feel any like pressure, like when I play like a stadium and people have paid like, they paid like a bit of money to be there. I'm like,
they expect some professionalism. Is that something you're about to say?
Professionalism. I have to play my hits. I have to put on a good. So I was just on stage and I was like, I'll play whatever I want and I'll get pissed, and it was great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there was lots of bottles of wine consumed. A set list that never ended. Me and the tour manager we're in America. We must be able to get a gun from somewhere. Trying to get him off stage. And we had to go to Justin Bieber's manager's wedding the following day, me and Ed. And I think we had about 15 minutes sleep, didn't we, Ed? And it was just horrific. So we had to fly back to New York, then fly to
Buffalo.
Wherever it was.
Oh my God.
Buffalo.
So would you say then, Stuart, there's times when you're a bit like, Ian Faith, in Spinal Tap, like just standing there with a cricket bat to like deal with people who are maybe like the odd challenging time.
Yes, there's been times. Not usually me. Usually I'm the one placating. There'll be our tour manager and our head of security, usually the ones holding the cricket bat first. But between the sort of the three of us, we're like the three-headed beast. Let's not start with what Kev travels with. But there's certainly we're the three-headed grumpy old man that will be the police of common sense sometimes, or try to be. But we know we're on.
Especially when so like I'm happy to be talked down if it's genuinely a bad idea. But if it's like that, for instance, is a show that I played for like 3 hours, and there's 2,000 people in Long Island that will never forget that show, and it's like and I will never forget that. It was like
the promoter hasn't. He emails me every other week, and as soon as this comes out, I know he's going to be back on my case. So I can promise
I'd love to. But I think for stuff like that, it's musical stuff. I never get talked down from. It's kind of like just let you kind of do your thing. It's more like, I mean, just ridiculous things that I get. Well, Stu, what's the most ridiculous thing you've talked me down from recently? Usually moving places, like just being like, I'm
going to buy an island here, or I've had enough. Me and Cherry are emigrating to Ghana for 3 years. Stuff like that. You get the odd thing like that, and you go, yes, dear. And again, it's like I said earlier, you just sort of let the idea percolate, and it'll kill itself eventually.
I sent Stuart this uninhabited island in Ireland that like no one, you're not even allowed to build a house in it. And I was like, I think this is a good idea. I think I'm going to buy this and move it. But you can't even build it. There's literally just like a stone ruin on it. But yeah.
Yeah, there's an expression from an old mentor of mine, Frank Presland, who's an expression that he used to manage Elton John. It's like, just let the ideas wither on the vine, dear. And that's all it was. So it's like, and that's what you do. Just give them their own oxygen and they'll go away, those ones, most of the time.
So is there any advice that from the management side and the artist side that you could give to up-and-coming artists that are looking for management?
Oh, looking forward. Well, the thing is, these days, a lot of it comes via your lawyers. And I've never quite understood how these young kids get their lawyers. I think you just have to find someone that you click with and that, that believes in your music and that that you can trust. And that's often a time process. But it's also, don't sign anything without anyone else looking at it. It's the most important in anything in the music industry. It's probably the same as the film industry as well. It's if people recommend you, or if they look after other people that you admire or you admire their careers, that's probably a good start. But yeah, just don't rush into things. Also, because there's not necessarily a need.
Also, in terms of like contracts, the best looking one is not necessarily the best one. Like if you're offered a shit ton of money to sign a record deal, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best deal, because you're signing and then you're instantly in debt. So it's actually better to sign for a smaller advance, and then the label are going to put more into you because you're less of a risk, and it's more of a like, oh well, we've like this hasn't actually cost us this much, and we can then pay a bit more on this video and then a bit more on them going to have this band for this promo. And I think for me, like when speaking to like new up and coming artists now, and they're telling me about like, should I sign this deal or should I sign this deal? It's always like, what's the best? Who like with a manager or a record label. So the reason I signed to my record label was not because they offered me the most money. It's because the guy that signed me was coming to gigs for 2 years, and he would come like every single gig, just turn up and just stand in the audience, then have a beer with me afterwards. And when the deals came through, I think they were probably the smallest deal, to be honest, in terms of money. But it was the best team to go with. And you want to go with people that believe in you rather than people that like go with the hype of it. That go like, oh, we should sign this person because other people want to sign them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, can you tell us anything more then about? Obviously, you've got a new album coming out and everything like that. As you say, it's been a while since doing anything out there and about. Can you tell us about your process? Was it any different this time around in terms of making it? And saying to you, Stuart, like in terms of listening to it or anything like that. Obviously.
Can I answer that first? Because I know what Ed's going to say. It was certainly more elongated, which goes back to the whole sort of everyone thinking, let's try hard.
Which has been going on for about a year, by the way. It usually goes on for about a month.
And yes, but this is where we'll have our first argument in front of you. To my credit, the song I still think should be the second single is still there, and that was done years ago. But it certainly there was The plus side of that is we know that
let's
we have
do
about
that as the
50
second
really good
single.
songs
Then
that we'll
I'm
probably
I'm
use.
not sold anyway. Let's just get the videos done and then. Sorry, we're talking shop. Sorry.
No.
See, now we're going to stop in front of you. But that's the thing. But certainly it's been a much longer process. And I think, to be fair, I think for that thing, it's been a more detailed process where, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, in the past there's been songs that have been really sort of demoed and they'll just fall by the wayside. Whereas we've actually got a lot of songs that a lot of work has gone into. So there's a lot of, if the worst comes to the worst and we all die in a horrible plane crash tomorrow, some bugger's going to get rich off releasing about 10 albums worth of really quite good stuff. So there's that plus side. But then we have to whittle down, and it's the heartbreak. And I have a whiteboard here of songs that I'm constantly wiping out and replacing with what's going to make them. And there's songs you forget about and songs that come back and go. So that's a different process. But you just want to make it as good as it can be.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
that's
for
what
me,
drives
the original process of the album is I had the title in my head and I was working to a brief, and then the album that was being created just was not the brief. Like, all these songs would come out and I'd be like, oh, I fucking love this, but it doesn't fit on this album that I'm trying to make. So I basically parked the album I was trying to make and finished this one, and then we're going to finish the other one pretty much straight after. The songs are all there. And the songs have been there for a long time, but it's about sonically finding, like production basically, finding where stuff fits.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of a lot of tunes.
I mean, that must...
And also, like...
No, go on.
Sorry.
No, I was going to say, Stuart, that must be the most painful job to do, because I'm bad when... Do you remember when you used to make your own CDs for your car and you could only fit like 10 songs on?
Oh yeah, that's the sort of thing. Well, to be fair, it's quite good, Ed, because Ed always does it, and Ed will always send track listings, and I'll always look at it and go, great, no, great. There's always one song I don't like. There always is. There still is. I'm looking at it now. I'm not telling you.
Which
So
one?
that bit,
Which one?
But you get to that process and you get.
Tell me which track number.
Hang on. No, actually, it's actually all right. Actually, I'm looking at one now that it's not too bad, but I don't think it's got all the new songs in it. No. Anyway, we haven't got time for this. We'll have this conversation afterwards.
Is it track
But
number
you're right,
9?
but that's the thing, and this is
track
what
number
happens
10?
because everyone has an opinion.
Track number 9.
No, track number 9, as I have it, should be the last.
Oh, is it track number 14? It is, isn't it?
No, not to go. I'm saying just the order's wrong.
No. It's
no problem.
incredible.
Carry on.
I didn't actually think that there was too much of a.
It's quite an insight. It's actually you can actually see.
A song should be on the album.
We never annoy each other.
Yeah, man. I think it's very. I feel like track listing. This is why streaming has been like and not so much streaming, but also like iTunes as well, is like a hard thing for a musician to come to terms with, because I grew up listening to. I would buy a CD and I would listen to the CD, and there was no skips. You would just listen to it. Whereas now, it's very much song based, but I think if you make a good enough collection of the singles, so for instance on Divide we put out Shape of You, Castle on the Hill, Happier, Galway Girl, Perfect, and people can listen to those 5 songs and be like, oh, I have a general idea of what the album's going to sound like, let me listen to the rest of it, and then people will listen to the whole album. And that's why I think it's a mistake for artists and labels to sort of focus on being single artists, because I think if you make a body of work, it does get listened to as a body of work, but it's just a longer process. You have to make sure every song is fucking amazing for people to actually give it the time of day. Because if and this is, and I say this all the time, I think this is why record labels fucked up back in the day, and people went to illegal downloading and Napster and stuff like that, and it's because artists took the piss with their albums. They would put one good song on and then have 9 filler tunes, and then labels would charge you fucking 20 quid to buy it, and you'd buy this album and be like, well, I fucking hate all the other tunes. Like, and so I think that's where it came. It basically was years and years of people just taking the piss and not being a high enough standard, I think.
Definitely. So, conscious of time, guys. So, obviously, this is called The Normal Not Normal. What does the word normal mean to you?
Yeah.
Boring. Yeah, I don't. When someone says something's normal or someone's normal, I instantly think that they're gonna bore the shit out of me. Like, I think I love eccentricity, as long as it's not like harming anyone and it's just like kooky. Like, my favorite character in Harry Potter was always Luna Lovegood, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just like someone that dances to the beat of their own drum and like doesn't care what people think about. I spent years of high school like just being like, if I stop caring what people think about me, I'll be a lot happier. Which is ironic because underneath it, I really care what people think about my music. But I think in terms of like what's cool, the thing that people say is cool is never the thing that's cool. No. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Like, you know, when NME used to do like the 100 coolest people.
That was a load of,
and it just kind of
bollocks as well. Like, some of them you're looking and going, hang on, have they listened to the same track I've listened to with that?
Never in it.
But also, if there was a bloke at school, and you can imagine the person that writes the list at NME is this bloke just grown up, who's like, oh, well, I'm going to decide who the coolest is. And I've kept this little list of the people that I think are the 100, and like, it's instantly from that moment on not cool. So even if the person on the list is actually genuinely quite cool, it's, yeah. I never was.
It's cooler not to be on the list. Yeah.
But then again, I suppose you could say that with you just sticking to what you were doing, you've made your total brand of music like the coolest on this. I'm not saying that to blow smoke at your ass, but like in terms of like, think the people who've been to see you live, like the millions of people who've been to see your shows. There's a resonance with people there.
Thank you, man. I would say that's the thing. I think what I have got is broad appeal, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's cool, because the cool artists are like James Blake and Bon Iver and FKA Twigs, and those are the people that like the cool kids would listen to and think are cool. And actually my name and brand is actually synonymous with like people that don't listen to music, they don't know real music because they listen to him and stuff like that. But I've never been worried about, going back to my point earlier about the guy that I knew that was pissed off about teenage girls coming to his gig because he would have preferred like a cooler crowd. Like I've never ever wanted to be cool. I've never tried to make a like left of center indie album to win a Mercury Prize. I just like, I make the music that I really like, and I'm grateful that people come and watch it. There's no formula to it. There's no like me trying to get the broad appeal. I just make music that I like listening to. And I think that's the thing. I've never ever tried to please a fan base. I've just been like, right, I'm going to make something that I like. You either like it or you don't. And people do like it. I think if I tried to do the cool thing, people would see straight through it, because I've always been a bit nerdy and weird, and I think that's what originally people were drawn to. Is I used to have kids. I always remember knowing the One Direction boys really well and going to their gigs, and you know the girls would get glammed up to go to that gig, and they would wear their best dress and wear their best shoes and blah blah blah. And then at my gigs it would just be like teenage girls in hoodies and Converses, and I feel like that was the separation. There was like there was the quote unquote cool kids, and then the quote unquote not cool, like misfits, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
No,
So
definitely.
and then I'll ask this on to you, Stuart. What's the most normal thing about you?
Most normal. I just like staying at home. For someone who spends most of his time travelling the world with his job, I'm quite a normal homebody. I've got dogs. I like watching telly. So there's a lot of travel, and there's a lot of having to be outgoing, which I'm not naturally. So that's probably quite the normal thing. I'm not some
His email address is goaway@iamgrumpy.com.
But the girls in the office have banned me from making business cards with that on it, so it has to. The alternative works as well, but that I insisted that work. But now there's just down as Stuart, I'm Grumpy, as a pseudonym. I'm like, but
it's just
I want to make the cards with Go Away, I'm Grumpy, for people I really don't like. But I also know there has been incidences where I've given it to people and they've obviously gone away and read it and thought I was being rude, and I've never heard from them.
So, Ed, what would you say then is the least normal thing about you? I'm thinking like when you were obviously I remember you saying that you're a big ketchup fiend, like little things like that.
I think the thing that universally, unequivocally, is the thing that people cannot get their head around, and this is even going to my parents and brother, is the tattoos. I'm completely covered in the weirdest, most colourful tattoos, and that is the thing that no one can get their head around. Like, no, there's no one apart from my wife. There's no one that is like, they look great. Everyone said I look like a melted crayon. Yeah, but
give it a few
so I'd
years.
say that's the thing that's like most not normal about me. But there's never ever. I fucking love them. I love them, and I love anytime that anything random happens. I just put it on my body, and anytime I see, like, I'll just see a bit of art sometimes and just be like, oh, that's cool, and just tattoo it on me. Like I think that's the thing that people find not normal. Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, I do this thing called the 3 a.m. questions, which is basically quick fire, but the right answer comes when you can't sleep at 3 a.m.
Cool.
So, Stu, do you want to go first?
Go on then.
Okay, so it's only 5-1. So, what is your favourite book?
Captain Corelli's Mandolin.
Very good.
Really?
Yeah, love it. Have you read it? You just seen the film.
I haven't seen either, but I
The book's
never knew
amazing.
this.
Yeah, the book's amazing.
So that one's
You need
got
a-
really, really.
you need-
I
you
got
need
one
a
got really
thesaurus
good
to
with
read
Stuart.
it.
Huh?
Yeah, you need a thesaurus to read it because every other word you can't understand what he's saying. But it's
Oh,
really
mate, I
fun.
read Train Spotting the other day, and it's all written in like.
Phonetic Glaswegian. Yeah. If you think that's difficult, try Captain Corelli's. Most people give up after the second page.
So it's like
Anyway, what are you saying about you got drunk with me and what?
I can't remember what I was going to say. Oh,
Just as well. Moving on then, James.
Got drunk with Stuart and asked him what his favourite album was, and then yeah, and I never knew. I've known Stuart for like all this time, and this is the first time I'm finding out his favourite book. Although Stuart, it's a very posh red wine conversation for us sitting down and discussing our favourite literary.
Yeah, we haven't got to that stage yet. We just made it to album about a year ago.
Sorry, I
Right,
interrupted.
next one.
No, it's
Sorry.
fine. Your favourite film?
Oh, Alien probably, or The Empire Strikes Back. Probably Alien's the one film I could constantly watch and not get bored of.
Yeah, scared
It's definitely the one you've watched the most.
Yeah, definitely. I'd always stick Alien on if I'm bored. Yeah.
Your favourite song?
Oh,
Bad habits.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, there's a new single by rising English singer-songwriter called Bad Habits. It's probably been in the charts for about 3 weeks when you hear this. I never...
Stuart doesn't actually like my music. Well, you do like my music, but you're not like if you know what Stuart's a fan of, like he's mad on Queens of the Stone Age, he's mad on Sonic. I don't fit his.
I'm quite an alt-rock boy, so Ed always gets upset and worried when he hears the music I listen to. He looks at me quizzically, going, "You don't like me," and I do. I genuinely do. But I don't honestly have a favourite song. I really do, because it changes so much. I've never really thought about it, and I know if I said one to you now, I'd go bugger. I didn't mean that. So for the record, Bad Habits, Ed Sheeran.
Very good.
Is the one at the
Your
moment.
favourite food?
Oh, probably cheesecake, although I should say paella. But probably, if there's something I'd love to not, I'd be remiss if it left my life. It would be a good old cheesecake.
And your favourite quote? And it could be like a meaningful thing, or it could literally be anything which was on The Simpsons once.
Oh no, I like, what is it? Spike Milligan's gravestone. I told you I was ill.
Yeah, I told you I was ill.
Yeah, I like that one.
Amazing. And then Ed, could I quickly ask you the same things?
Absolutely.
Is that right? So your favourite book?
I think it would be the Phillip Pullman trilogy and they do it as one book. So I think that his Dark Materials. Yeah.
Okay.
My daughter's named after the main character in it.
Oh, nice. Your favourite film?
Do you know? I would say that honestly, the films that I've
Got to
watched.
take one for the team now, Ed.
No. Honestly, I think the films that I've watched the most in life are the Harry Potter films. Honestly, I think those are the ones I go back to. There's a comfort in it because you grew up with them, and it's you can put them on at anywhere, any time of the day. You can start at any point in it, and they're great.
Was that? Was you saying that was kind of getting Rupert to play a fan of yours in Lego House? Was that some way connected with that, or how did that come about?
Yeah, well, I never liked being in my music videos ever, and I'm only really in them now because they do tend to get more views if I'm doing something in them. But my whole thing for the first 4 or 5 singles of my first album was not being in the videos. Like A-Team, I made a tiny cameo. You Need Me, I made a tiny cameo. Give Me Love, I made a tiny cameo. And I always said, I'll get Rupert Grint to play me in a music video, and it was impossible until Tom Felton, who I actually saw about 2 weeks ago. I went out for dinner with him and his wonderful girlfriend, but he's such a fucking great bloke. But he followed me on Twitter and tweeted my video, And I remember he was like the first guy with like he had like 70,000 followers or something like that. And I'd only ever been tweeted by people with like 2,000 followers. So it was like it was a big thing. And yeah, we got in touch, and then we were texting from there. And then I just cheekily asked him one day, I was just like, can you speak to Rupert and see if he'd do the video? And he actually told me the other day that it wasn't as open shut as I thought it was. Like, he really had to convince Rupert's agent that this was a good thing. But yeah, so that's where that came from. But man, I just like the films are. I think it's the same with Stuart and the Star Wars films. You know, growing up with the Star Wars films, and Stuart will never understand why I love Phantom Menace so much, but it's because it came out when I was eight years old. And
even Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, he loves it all.
I had the Jar Jar Binks toy. You know, it was culture in school. Everyone was talking about it. Stuart's story about it's hilarious because he got a pirate video of the Phantom Menace and thought it was a fan made like sequel.
Because it came out in America about 6 months before the UK, and I found a VHS on my girlfriend's flat, and I watched it. I thought, well, this is bollocks. I thought, oh, someone's obviously just made this fan footage shit. I remember sitting in the Clapham Pitch House on a really hot day. The bloody air conditioning was broken, so we were all dying anyway. I just remember watching it, and 5 minutes in, oh, fuck, it's the same.
What is your favourite song?
It differs a lot. It depends when I'm listening to it a lot. I've been listening. My old tour manager in the States used to tour manage this guy Justin Townsell, who's like sadly passed away now. But there was a song that he had called "Mama's Eyes," which is one that I just throughout the years I've listened to like a hell of a lot. But also "Jealous" by Labyrinth is one that I always go back to, and "American Pie." John McClane, I always go back to that. So I think those 3 songs.
Yeah,
I'd say.
Your favourite food?
I said this the other day. Does takeaway class as a food group?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a bit broad.
Well, okay. Curry or fish and chips? It's
Okay.
one of them, or both.
Or curry chips. Yeah.
At the same time.
You could.
Yeah.
If you're up north, you can have both.
But as I'm
Yeah,
saying,
exactly.
like with Stuart, with his cheesecake thing, like if I was actually going to choose a food to eat for the rest of my life, it would be something a little bit healthier. Yeah, mate, to be honest, I eat a Nando's hot chicken wrap every day for lunch in London, like without fail. Sometimes 2, innit, Stu?
But they're good.
Yep.
I'm just a creature of habit with Nando's.
But it's the same as Wagamama's, isn't it? You can't go in there and order something different.
No, that's it. I don't think has anyone been in a Wagamama's and not
Exactly.
ordered a chicken katsu curry? Because I know I've never not ordered a chicken katsu
There's
curry.
definitely some weird.
My girlfriend, my wife goes in and she goes, "I hate it. Why do we come here?" I'm like, "Well, why don't you just order the katsu curry and get it over with?" Because she tries something different every time. You're
It's like the
idiot.
Prego steak roll at Nando's. I had it once and I was like, why am I ordering steak at fucking Nando's?
And then your favourite quote?
I'm just looking up now. The quote. In seeking happiness for others, you will find it in yourself. Unknown. That's
Very
very
good.
unproblematic. There you go. If you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. If you want happiness for a lifetime, help someone else. Chinese proverb. That's quite nice.
It's a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
What
Very
else?
good.
I would rather die a meaningful death than live a meaningless life. It's pretty fucking dark. Anyway.
Yes, very much so. But guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Really have enjoyed it, and thanks
been
very
a
much for
pleasure.
all your time.
Dude, thank you so much. This has been great. And actually, Stuart, I think this is the first interview we've done together.
I think it is. Yeah, we've certainly done interviews about each other before, but not together
All
in
the
the same
interviews
room,
that
have we?
Stuart's done about me has a picture of you guys in the background.
Yeah.
It does. They always
Stuart,
mention.
if you're lucky, we'll send you a signed picture
them
for
up.
the background next time you're doing one. So yeah.
Oh, please
my
do.
God,
I want a genuine signed picture. I'll email the
I
address.
got Stu a signed picture, but it was for his
but,
office, and we needed to get it done in time. So my assistant just pretended. I'm so sorry, guys. If you could send,
We'll be sending an address.
Could you
because that would
send?
be very much
Actually, to be
appreciated.
honest, like signed cardboard cutouts would probably be better, just so Stu can be flanked. Did they make Fred and George Weasley cardboard cutouts?
I don't know. I'm not too sure. To be honest,
Someone
I put
must
a
do.
I had an extension built about 18 months ago, and I wanted to put a poster up. So I managed to get it's from the Deathly Hallows Part 2, and it's like like the one with Fred and George on it. And that took in the end, I had to email one of the publicity girls at Warner Brothers and said, "Can I get this poster I saw 10 years ago? Because I can't seem to get it anywhere else." So hopefully they do cardboard cutout somewhere, but.
If not, I can make that happen if we want to
Okay,
do that.
yeah, sounds good.
Stu, do you have them in your office? What about mini cardboard cutouts?
Well, we've got one.
I've
for
got a
Kevin.
small
Why not,
cardboard
yeah.
cutout of Nicolas Cage in my pub that is I don't know why. I went through like a Nicolas Cage phase in lockdown. You know, he did like loads of movies in the last 5 years,
Yeah.
and like some are not great, and some of them are fucking incredible.
I don't think there's some are not great. They are all terrible, but they're in their own
Have you seen
magical
Mandy?
way.
No.
No, I haven't seen that.
Oh mate,
I have. Don't watch it.
it's
Well-
fucking mad.
Watch it. It's insane. It's the most.
You ripped my shirt!
It's very.
It's fucking weird. I love it.
Sold.
Just type in after you leave. Type in Nicolas Cage Mandy, and there's like one scene where he's like downing vodka and screaming, and then there's like another scene where he's just screaming, "You ripped my shirt! You ripped my shirt!" It's great.
And this is considered the best film he's made in the last 10 years, I should add. So the rest are even worse.
I love it. I love it. Stu, we should get Nicolas Cage for a music
Yeah.
video. Dude,
Yeah,
if you read the thing, so he had. Can I read you just before we go, Nick? This is how Nicolas Cage wildly spent $150 million. I fucking love this so much. Right, where did all the money go? Dinosaur skulls. He spent 300 grand on a Tarbosaurus. Mate, I mean, that sounds great. 2 albino king cobras, 2 Bahamian islands, because who needs one?
Yeah, one.
The Shah of Iran's Lamborghini, exotic cars and motorcycles. He owned a $1 million Ferrari Enzo. He bought 4 yachts. 4! He had a famous haunted house that he bought for $3.5 million. Shrunken pygmy heads. A pyramid tombstone that is 9 foot tall. The first Superman comic, that is quite cool. A crocodile. Cage had one because every American family should. A shark, again, standard pets for Cage. An octopus. A private Gulfstream jet. 15 estates and homes around the world. He had a $10 million Malibu mansion, a private getaway home in the Bahamas, 17.5 million palace in Bel Air, a mansion in Las Vegas, 24,000 square foot home in Rhode Island, a chalet in Aspen, Colorado home, San Francisco, New York, Newport Beach, 2 European castles. He bought an $8 million castle in Bath, rare art, high-end jewelry, and yeah, mate, just...
That sounded like you know on the Gadget Show when they say what you can win at the end, and it just never ends.
Well, you could win, yeah, at the end of the credits,
I mean, he lived.
I'd enter.
It's making your idea, Ed, of the island off Ireland sounds really good value now.
I don't know, it seems purely frugal, doesn't
My
it?
favorite,
it's like minimalist.
favorite quote from like those things is when Johnny Depp had it, and his financial stuff came up, and they said Johnny Depp spends 30 grand a month on wine, and his reply to that was, "That's insulting. It was much more." Oh mate, eccentric people often that's what happens, isn't it? Just fucking mad shit. Stuart, what do you think's the maddest thing that I've bought?
There's been some wine, I think.
Can you tell the difference? I'm not a wine person, so can you tell the difference between?
Yeah. No, I can't. If
I
I close
can't
my eyes,
tell
I couldn't
the
tell you what colour it was, let alone
I can
what it
tell the
was.
difference between like a 20 quid bottle and a 50 quid bottle, and then a 50 quid bottle and a 100 quid bottle. But past then, not really. I think it's all for me. I just went through a phase of wanting to drink older and older and older stuff. So I had one from 1850, which was pretty swill. It was pretty vinegar, but it survived 2 world wars. It's almost Napoleon era. cool.
True. I remember when we were in France and the one press guy had a bottle of, he had a glass of port, I think it was, which was pre-war. They buried it in the yards of this chateau so the Nazis wouldn't find it when they invaded France. So he had this thing. And I swear you could smell it from the other side of the building. You're like, just this. And I thought, why the hell would you want to drink that? It doesn't like rocket fuel or something.
Yeah, I think for me it was just curiosity, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Got to be done. Anyway, guys, thank you again so much.
Thank you so much, guys. Stu?
I've got to be honest, and I'm not just saying this. Of all the interviews we've done, that is definitely one of my favourites.
Definitely. Like we said before, you know you want someone to be really cool and really nice and exactly like you. Both of them, both Stuart and Ed. And they were. They were so great with their time. I think we chatted for well over an hour and a half in total. So thank you so much to Stuart and Ed for giving us your time up of your day to give us a chat about anything and everything. We really do appreciate it. And I really hope that everybody enjoys it too. I really enjoyed as well that he doesn't want the cool crowd at his concerts. Because I think like everyone says, cool people are really boring when you're around them. Like if you ever go to a club, and nowadays it's just people just hanging around taking selfies of each other, showing how much fun they're having instead of actually having fun. I think like we said during that chat as well, that the rock clubs are always the fun places to go. That's what I always felt anyway. So I definitely agree with what Ed was saying there.
I don't actually understand. Well, they say we were talking about obviously like the cool, like that chat. I wish I found out who the musician he was.
I think I know who it is.
I don't think he was giving that away though, was it?
I think I know who it is,
but I don't think he was giving it away. But also as well, like why would you want that? As we said, like why would you? It's like you and I going to do a Q&A and not having any response from people. Like people are too like, huh. Do you know what I mean? Like no one wants that. You're there to be entertained, enjoy yourself, and I think that we can take that a lot away from a lot of people. But another thing what I did enjoy listening to was actually about the relationship, obviously, with Stuart and with Ed, and how we actually saw, didn't we, almost like a mini production meeting about which songs make the edit on the latest album. And I thought that was really interesting to see. Just almost like, yeah, we could do that, but there was no, how would you feel if we took this out? Do you know what I mean? Like it was very much a case of, yeah, I think this one needs to go.
Definitely. And like you said, the album process, making it, and how I said in the interview how back in the day, like 10, 15 years ago, making a CD was difficult because you could only fit maximum of 20 songs on a CD to play in your car or your Walkman or whatever it was you're listening to. So imagine being the guy like Stuart who gets sent all this amazing music and you've got to choose the album. But definitely what Ed was saying was right. 20 years ago or so, people just threw, so like they had the main single and then the rest of the album was pretty DOS. But I think it's definitely great now that you can see the artist really putting in all the effort for all the songs. And again, I mean, Ed's record speaks for itself, so I know everybody knows that the next album is going to be absolutely fantastic. His latest single already is number one, and the buzz around it has been absolutely fantastic. So big congratulations to that. And what I love as well is that he still lives in Suffolk. Home, that is his home for him.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing, though. It just goes to show that you can enjoy it. And it was really, I liked how he's obviously, as we mentioned about him getting involved with Ipswich Town Football Club, which is a team he supported, and just all that whole side of things just goes to show what a lovely, down-to-earth chap he is. And he's obviously got a good group of people around him to keep him on that level. But I like it how he uses his platform and he doesn't waste time on things. Do you know what I mean? Like it made me laugh actually when he was talking about NME, because it remembered. Yeah. So NME, for those of you listening in countries who may think, what is NME? Well, NME is a music magazine over here called it used to be called the New Music Express. Anyway, but
used to smell funny. I remember that the paper it was printed on used to stink.
Basically, if a band got popular, if a band got popular, they would get hounded. Like, oh, it's not as good as their last. And after a while, like growing up when we were younger, we used to obviously virtually live in the rock clubs all around Birmingham. And I remember someone explained to me that once they were like, they're just going after like if something goes really popular. And I remember listening to a band once, and they were absolutely blew my mind. And they had their follow-up album came out, second album, which was already debuting in the underground, in the rock charts anyway, very, very highly, and they didn't even cover it. And I remember thinking to myself, this is getting really, really stupid now, because there's only so many times that you can sit down and hang on a minute. I'm ready. Because there's only so many times you can sit down and listen to someone's opinion about music, which makes no sense whatsoever. Because at the end of the day, music is subjective, it's an art form, and it's entitled to your own opinion, and it doesn't mean that it's right or wrong.
Well done, thank you very much, and well done for using the rant bag as well. But going back to it,
Helps.
like I say, I love it that Ed still lives in Suffolk and is very connected with his hometown. And I love also that he's sponsoring his football team, Ipswich Town. Hopefully they get promoted back to the Championship next season. But I was thinking about that after we were speaking. I remember him saying how Castle on the Hill is about Suffolk and where he grew up. And I think that especially at the football and sporting arenas, tell me if I'm wrong, people, but when you're at your home stadium and a song which is playing by the artist about the town that you are from or something that relates to it, it means something more. Like Birmingham have Mr. Blue Sky by ELO, Villa have
Paranoid by Black Sabbath.
Yeah. So it just there's something about it, and then like I know West Ham have Iron Maiden and things like that. Like there is something about it which is it just means a little bit more to those home people. So I think that's amazing. And one question, the other day I was driving, and I thought, damn, I wish I asked him that question. That I can remember hearing an interview once with somebody, and they're saying that once in a blue moon, an artist will have the biggest selling single in the world out. And if you're lucky enough to go to that gig and they play that song at that exact moment and the whole crowd just explodes. Now, Ed had that on his last tour about 3 or 4 times over. So so that's something. If we ever speak to him again, that's what I want to ask him, even if it's just down the pub or something like that, because that's something that would blow my mind. But enough about that. I also love as well just how. Can I just say as well? I love how the relationship between Stuart and Ed, they're just mates.
Yeah, and as I said, I think that just goes to show, obviously, the network what is around Ed, because obviously he's the biggest artist on the world. Let's place it, on the planet. Let's face it, like single solo male artist. I think everybody knows him. Because I was quite excited actually when they were talking about obviously the next tour. Do they bring a live band in or something like that? You know where I'm getting at with this? Maybe he needs a percussion.
No. He
so maybe it could just be I'm happy. I'm just throwing it out there. I could be there in the background, with the odd I don't know what song that would go into, but do you know what I mean? Maybe that would just get the crowd going. Just stand there. Who's ready?
Maybe that'll be it. But anyway, we've had such a great time coming back from our break of a break. So we're going to go back on our break, but the new season of Normal Not Normal will be back later in the year. But until then, I just want to throw out a random Did You Know fact, or 2 random Did You Know facts, if that's all right. So,
go on.
Ed's new single, Bad Habits, out now. Amazing video where he plays essentially a vampire. So I'm trying to segue in here. Vampires are afraid of the sun, right? And sunlight.
Yeah.
So my 2 random Did You Know facts for the day are about the sun.
Oh, that is too tentative for that. You can't.
No. It blew my mind. So, did you know the sun revolves? It doesn't just sit still.
I've never thought about it really.
But it doesn't go east to west like Earth does. It goes west to east, so it goes the other way.
That tricky sun.
But technically, this is where it gets really more confusing. At the top of the sun, so the poles, it takes 35 days for it to go around. Yet in the middle, the equator, it takes 25 days to go around. Earth days, that is.
How does that work?
Just the speed or something. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But that's that fact. And the next one is, did you know that the sun is halfway through its life?
That's good to
allegedly.
Know. That's good to
But
know.
don't worry. There's still 5 billion years left of sunlight, so I'm pretty sure we'll see it out.
Well, that's a morbid point to finish the show on, isn't it?
Well, I'm just saying, it's a great thing about that beautiful, big, bright thing in the sky. But if you're a vampire, obviously stay away from it because it's not good for you. But Ed's new single is out now wherever you get your music. An amazing video for it as well, so check it out. I'd like to say, Ed, Stuart, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yes, I would do as well. And also, in terms of out now as well, don't forget, if you go to represent.com/normal not normal is the normal not normal merch, which is still going very, very well. Thank you for all your tweets, your Instagram tags with yourselves wearing the merch in some amazing places. We absolutely enjoy watching it. And I think maybe we'll have to do a little thing at the start of the next season, just picking out some of our favourite places that people have taken their photographs, having either, I saw a great one, right, with the rant bag in front of the Grand Canyon. I thought that was absolutely fantastic the other day. So anyway, we see them all. Thank you so much for your love and support, guys. We will see you a bit later in the year. Don't forget to click subscribe either on the YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss it when the new season starts. I've got to get that.
Go on, be that person. Be that person.
You have to say that. Subscribe to my channel. So as I say, do so and don't miss out. But once again, thank you so much to Ed, to Stuart for their time today. Thank you so much, everyone else, for joining us. I've been Oliver Phelps.
I've been James Phelps. Guys, we'll see you later on in the year. Until then, have an amazing summer or winter, wherever you are in the world. Take care and goodbye.